Very good. Okay, I'd like to go ahead and call our meeting to order. Thank you for joining us. This is a regular meeting of the Cedar Rapids Community School District Board of Education. Today is Monday, September 8th. Could someone please read the approval of the agenda?
I move that the agenda of Monday, September 8, 2014, Board of Education meeting be approved as set forth, and that each item is considered ready for discussion and/or action.
Second.
Thank you. This is a roll call action.
Director Anhalt.
Aye.
Director Rosenthal. Aye. Director Witt.
Aye.
Director Humbles.
Aye.
Director Westerkamp.
Aye.
Director Laverty.
Aye.
President Meisterling.
Aye. Thank you. Next, I'll turn this over to Dr. Benson for a superintendent report.
Thank you, President Meisterling. This evening, I have several items. I want to thank everybody who contributed to our musical instrument drive. The collection was held in August and brought in more than 60 instruments that have now been rehabbed and distributed to our 6 middle schools. This event increased community involvement in our music program as well as our inventory of music instruments. It's really a great success, so thank everybody. I'm pleased to note that Kennedy High School has been named the Class 4A Bank Iowa Traveling Challenge Cup champion. Try to say that fast. An honor which comes with a prestigious Crystal Award and a $1,750 award for academic enhancements at the school. The state competition recognizes the high school students for academic excellence and outstanding achievement in state competitions. Congratulations to the Cougars. Both Kennedy and Washington High Schools were named to the 2014 list of top American high schools compiled by the Daily Beast, an online news publication. Kennedy ranked 382nd and Washington ranked 451st on the list of the top 735 performing schools. That ranking places both schools at the top 2% of the 26,000 public high schools in the United States. The ranking is based on a 4-year cohort graduation rate, college acceptance rate, average ACT, SAT scores, participation in AP courses and examinations, and the percentage of students passing AP. Congratulations to the Warriors and the Cougars for outstanding academic performance and being recognized among the top high schools in the country. I'm looking forward to joining students and other staff members later this week for a special presentation of the Star-Spangled Banner. This is a special event and will be held at 10:30 a.m. on Friday, September 12th at Kingston Stadium to mark the 200th anniversary of the writing of the anthem by Francis Scott Key. Among the 1,600 district choral and instrumental ensembles representing elementary, middle, and high schools, they will be on the field. Parents and community members are invited to join in and add their voices to the singing of our national anthem. And finally, this evening, the voters will consider the Physical Plant and Equipment Levy, commonly known as PEPL, tomorrow, September 9th. The current voter-approved PEPL expires June 30th of 2015. PEPL funds can only be used for maintenance and upkeep of our 425 acres of grounds and 2.7 million square feet of building space. You may vote between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. at Jefferson, Kennedy, Washington, or Metro High Schools. I encourage everybody to go vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Any board reports? Ann?
I just wanted to thank the volunteers and the people in the community that are involved with that campaign effort and getting the word out. I think they've been on the radio and on TV and interviews and stuff, and I just appreciate their work. So thank you.
And that group is RISE, and that stands for Renovating, Improving Student Environment. And that's headed up by Scott and Laura Drzymski, Jen Newman, and Laura McBride. So we're really proud of all of our parents for paying attention and coming out to vote tomorrow. So we also encourage them to come out and vote and support our community schools. Any other board reports or comments? Okay, seeing none, this is now time for communications, delegations, and petitions. I do have one request to address the school board, and it's Amy Bauer, Laura DeFliger, Shelley Turner. Would you like to go ahead and come up to the podium? And please state your name and address for our records. Thank you. And you have 5 minutes. And just to let you know, the protocol is this is a time for comments. You will not have any dialogue from board members, so I don't want you to be offended when we just thank you. And if there's follow-up, we'll make sure that Laurel Day, our board secretary, does provide follow-up.
Okay. I'm Amy Bauer, 6714 Country Ridge Drive Northwest, Palo. I have 2 students at Jackson Elementary. My daughter is in 4th grade now. She is currently in a classroom with 29 students, plus 1 special ed student. When my daughter was in kindergarten, there were, I believe, 28 in her classroom. And we have been trying to we've communicated, hoping for additional help, maybe an extra section to be added. In 2nd grade, we wrote more letters. We were given paraprofessionals for, I think, 4 hours out of the day. They were taken away in 3rd grade due to budget cuts. So now we're in 4th grade. We have classes of 29 and 28, which top 30 with our special needs students. We feel like this is just not the best situation. We've gotten some inflow of students from the schools in need of assistance. So we've taken a lot of students in, but we haven't gotten any additional teaching staff or resources. And so I have written a letter, and I have some signatures from many parents, and we've spoken to the principal. So you guys all have a copy of that, and I'm going to pass it on to another parent.
Okay, thank you. And your name and address for our record.
Shelley Turner. My address is 5024 Erin Court, Northeast. I have a student in 3rd grade at Jackson Elementary, and he's been in Jackson ever since kindergarten. His 1st grade class had 27 students in it, and this is when I first learned that he was struggling with reading. His 2nd grade class last year had 29 kids in it at one point. He was unable to participate in the EDP, the extended day program, because there were not enough teachers to serve all the students that needed help. His 2nd grade teacher only had time to work with him on fluency because that's what he was going to be tested on. But what he really needed help with was the sounds. So now he's in 3rd grade, and he still doesn't know his sounds. And we've hired a tutor to help him with that. I know a lot of parents can't afford that, but we're working with a tutor now and hoping that and praying that he can catch up to the rest of the 3rd grade students. I think that smaller class sizes would allow our teachers to better address the needs of each child as opposed to teaching to the test.
Thank you.
My name is Julie McMahon. I live at 4029 Windfall Drive, Northwest. I have 3 sons at Jackson Elementary. One is in kindergarten and 2 are one is in 1st grade and 2 are in third grade. I reiterate a lot of the same comments that Shelley and Amy said earlier here. It's been an ongoing problem where we have large classroom size and not as many resources available to help with the one-on-one attention that some students need. So it's been said that we need to rely on volunteers to support that need. And we do have a great volunteer system at Jackson. Lots of volunteers come in, but they aren't educated enough to help with special needs that some of the students need. So I reiterate the need for more support and resources for our students at Jackson.
Thank you very much. Laurel Day will follow up with you. Yep. Next is the consent agenda, and before I entertain a motion in a second, I'm asking if anyone wants to pull anything for separate consideration.
Yeah, I'd like to pull the last item.
Okay, that's BA 15270.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the agenda, but yeah, I think that's
Yep.
it.
So we'll go
Yeah,
ahead and
it
pull
is.
that for separate consideration.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion in a second to approve the rest of the consent
So moved.
agenda. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call action due to the personnel report.
Director Rosenthal,
Aye.
Director Witt,
Aye.
Director Humbles,
Aye.
Director Westerkamp,
Aye.
Director Laverty,
Aye.
Director Anhalt,
Aye.
President Marjoling.
Aye. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the BA 15270.
I so move.
In a second, please.
Second.
Discussion? Ann?
I pulled this just because there's a lot of our agreements that we get, and I guess that we get a lot of agreements like this, but this one I'm not familiar with the group, and there wasn't a signature, or I didn't see an address, so I'm not sure where this is based. And then I was also, I think the MOU talked about, was it a 5 or 6 years agreement? And I just kind of wanted some more information about the group and how we'll determine whether or not to continue the agreement, or if there was discussion about having it be a shorter, like a 1 or 2 year agreement with extensions, and kind of a little more about how this would actually work.
I'll try to respond to those questions from my vantage point as superintendent. This is a group who has come to us spearheaded by Mr. Al O'Bannon, who's a well-known local resident who has been active in areas of equity concern. And so this has piqued my interest as superintendent. The length of the MOU is certainly we can work on in terms of if you wanted to approve it for 4 years or 2 years renewable, we could rewrite that language this evening if there was a substitute motion, for example, to do that. I don't think that the length of the agreement is a critical issue in the agreement. You are right that this is a new initiative. This is an initiative that has come to us to provide opportunities for foreign students who are here on an appropriate visa to attend our schools through Mr. O'Bannon's contacts and relationships. They would be sponsored students by his group, and they would attend school for some length of time, depending upon the age of the student. He works primarily in the country of India. However, he is trying to branch out to other Far East countries. And he is currently in the initiative to bring students here for college and university training. And I'm really not in the position of putting words in his mouth, so I don't want to do that. But I do want to explain what my understanding of his motive is. My understanding of his motive is that he would like to give students whose parents might be prospective college student parents some experience with American education prior to sending them to a full year of a university. These will be fully tuitioned students, so there's no a monetary exposure on the part of the district, and we have the right of placement. So we could place some students without incurring any additional expense. And this would be for varying lengths depending upon the specific need of the student. And what this MOU would allow us to do is enter into essentially agreements with individual families to accept their student on a tuition basis under the sponsorship of this organization.
John?
So just I'm glad you addressed the tuition issue because that had come up before. We have trimesters written into this agreement, and I know there's discussion, we're switching to semesters, so if this is a multi-year term, that'll need to be addressed. And I think for me personally, with a brand-new entity like this, it may be better to start with a smaller number of years and write it for extension if it's working.
Mm-hmm. I think Paul Hayes worked with Al on the MOU. We tried to pattern it after some of our current MOUs. So if the board saw fit to move this forward tonight, a modification for approval for 2 years renewable, we could write that in as that's what the board would approve.
Ann?
Is it possible for Al to present? Andy?
Certainly, I believe he'd be pleased to do that.
That would be helpful.
Ann?
Is he an employee? I'm just trying to understand because he's with the LBA Foundation, from what I
Right,
understand. So I just don't understand the relationship between him or his foundation and, sorry, let me back up. I think this is a great idea. I just want to understand more from a business standpoint and the agreement standpoint, who the agreement is with, and how is he an authorized person of this organization? I guess that's kind of what I want to understand a little bit better.
I think that from my understanding is that this is a separate and distinct initiative of his business enterprises. The LBA Foundation is one issue. He has business interests related to his post-secondary students that come over, and then this is another branch of his business opportunities. I really don't believe there'd be a problem if we just held the agreement this evening, withdraw the second, withdraw the motion, and we'll ask Mr. O'Bannon to come in and give further explanation.
So that's an option under Robert's rules, is to withdraw and table?
The next meeting.
Yeah, motion to table is always in motion, is always in order.
I don't need to withdraw my motion?
Then,
So
yeah,
I
we
would,
just
I would
table it
make a
and get
motion
vote.
that we table this and get more information at our next meeting or when he's available to come.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next I'll ask Dr. Benson to talk about the MOU for Creative Corridor Center for Equity.
Again, this is another initiative, and the group behind this initiative is Diversity Focus. And Mr. Chad Simmons, their executive director, is here to speak to the initiative. It goes back to the same basic introduction that I made on the previous matter. We know we have some disparate treatment and disparate results in the school district regarding certain subsets of populations of students. Anytime somebody comes to me with that I have real trust in and local knowledge of, I'm going to be interested in what they have to say. And I sit on the board of Diversity Focus, so before we go any further, I want to disclose I have a conflict as far as that volunteer activity and my work as superintendent. But Chad has been our executive director now going on 3 years, and has really brought some new and refreshing ideas for Diversity Focus to consider. So he's here this evening to explain the Creative Corridor for Educational Equity.
Welcome, Chad. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chad Simmons, Executive Director of Diversity Focus, 200 2nd Street Southeast, and that's in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I'm really excited to be here. There are a couple of things so I would like to say, if you wouldn't mind. First, I want to acknowledge all of the work that you all do in order to make our children great in this day and age, we really need our children to reach their potential, and you're very much a part of that. I want to give special recognition to Nancy Humble. She has been a godsend for many of us in the community. She has led across the corridor. She has made things happen, and she has done it with with very little fanfare. So Nancy, thank you for being who you are and doing what you have done and what you continue to do for these many years. You are much loved and appreciated. The Creative Corridor for Equity was created to develop a systematic, collaborative approach to overcome challenges in the Creative Corridor or the Cedar Rapids and Iowa City area through partnerships that extend north to Cedar Valley region and on to even Minneapolis. We're expanding the network of our time, talent, and treasure in order to support our youth at home. We have spent a tremendous amount of time, in essence, putting our plan together. The plan will focus on 5 key areas. I will highlight 2 of them, but I will list them all. One is around our educator recruitment and retention, and we're specifically targeting African American as of right now, though our goal is to expand it. And that is designed in order to make this one of the best places in order to develop educators that meet the needs of our community as the makeup and the demographics of the school district changes. We believe that we have a short-term and long-term plan in order to do that. We are prepared to raise around $2 to $4 million in the efforts to support 4 school districts, and that would include Iowa City Community School District, Cedar Rapids Community School District, Linn-Mar Community School District, Waterloo Community School District, and we've gotten, again, support from the Minneapolis Foundation to unleash all of the work that's being done in Minnesota around education. We believe that they're a leading indicator of what our school districts will look like, and we're hoping that through our partnership, and has already created a lot of open doors for us that will allow us to, in essence, bring things back here where we can fast adapt. The teacher leadership and compensation system, we already know that Cedar Rapids has put theirs in place. Our goal is to make sure that we do whatever we can to assist as you make sure that there's money invested in equity, and there's already been great work done by Dr. Javis and many of your administrators and leaders who have done a phenomenal job. Diversity Beyond Labels is our way of focusing around culture. We have, just like the space shuttle, we shut down the diversity leadership, the student diversity leadership program, which we had held for around 6 years. We shut it down and did not do it in 2013. But you will be receiving a presentation of the new program that was created by students, for students across the corridor, that will not require students to come to us, but for our speakers to, in essence, come to the students, and it would include people like our Lieutenant Governor who would come and speak across the region to students about different areas. So we're very excited about that. The Equity Initiative, again, focuses specifically targeting issues around students of color. Again, that's where we see that there's work that you've done with Dr. Javis that we're very excited about. Project Achieve Development System, which is where we're taking a look at how we can add value, not only after school, but between 8 and 3 o'clock, how we can make sure that you have the tools that you need, and create a collaborative environment of the work that you're already doing to make sure that it kind of fits within the system. Al O'Bannon is doing great work. I'm sure he'll be excited to come and talk to you. I will tell you that we're very much advocates of the work that he's doing as it relates to how we take a look at diversity, not only from a domestic perspective, but how we consider diversity when it comes to preparing our children from a global perspective, and it will be a global world for them. And then our Minneapolis Eastern Iowa Collaborative, where again we'll be sharing information around the system and in order to make things better and to fast adapt things. Now there has been some questions, which is how do we plan on governing this I will tell you that we've picked all the low-hanging fruit. There is no more low-hanging fruit. We've done our work around action, around awareness and around action. Now we're getting more to advocacy and how do we, in essence, collaborate and work together. We will be creating a advisory panel that will be people from around the country that will, in essence, give us guidance on the best practices. We will also be working with people locally in order to design the work that we're looking at doing, and we're taking an approach that this work will be 5 to 10 years out. So we are looking to provide significant resources in order to do the work, because we want to make this the best place for all of us to live, work, and play. So this is a highlight of the work that we're doing. We last week started traveling, in essence, to gain support from foundations. We will spend time in New York, in Washington, D.C., in Baltimore, and in Boston in a couple of weeks, in order to convince people that if there's any place to invest, this is the best place to invest in the efforts that we're doing. Thank you again for your time, and I'd be very open to any questions if time permits.
Any questions or comments? Yes, Gary?
I have a question about the agreement. Number 2, the district responsibilities appoint a high-level representative to the recruitment and retention initiative. Is this going to require, is this a new position for us? Are we going to add personnel? Is this going to be a redefining of staff we already have?
This comes under the workplace definition of other duties as assigned by the superintendent. So somebody in this table in front of you is going to be a high-level representative to that initiative.
Does that person know that yet?
Not yet.
So, yes, she does. So typically this work would be done probably outside the normal work hour days, or work day.
I would anticipate both. Some meetings would be during duty hours, and some meetings would be after.
Ann?
Talk about the term September 8th until a date mutually agreed upon by all parties. I realize it's not like we're paying something, but we are committing resources. And I guess I'm not sure what the evaluation criteria is or how often it will be reviewed. I mean, it does talk about reviewing. It's just, I don't know about reporting to the board or how we decide what's mutually agreed. It's just a little more open-ended than what we usually have, so.
So what we found is that as we look at working with multiple districts, we will also be working with many school systems, universities and colleges that are in essence a supplier of the talent that you're looking for that. We're trying to be very respectful to the politics in essence and the procedures that each school district has. So that's why I think it started off as September 8th, which is today, and my hope is today is the day that you all vote for it and to do that. So that's kind of what our plan is. When it comes to time, I do want to bring that up, is that there is some planning time that we're looking to do some planning for the remainder of the year. We believe that planning time will be the equivalent of somewhere around 4 days, so we do not believe there will be 4 consecutive days. We believe it'll be around 4 days for the year, and then we'll continue to, as we start focusing on implementation, then the team will help us determine the rest of the plan, and then what ways and what information do we need to gather in order to meet your needs as well as the administration needs for all of the parties involved.
From the school district's perspective, I think the board knows, but the community should understand, it is our practice when we start new initiatives to report back to the board. For example, the traditionally black college trip last year, we had the main sponsor in and made a report to the board. This initiative, we will keep you apprised of the work of the initiative and how it is going to unfold. And to some extent, this is a work in progress.
Okay, John?
Just say, this is great that this is moving forward. It's something since I've been on the board, this is in my 8th year, that we've been talking about equity within the school district, how important it is for our staff to represent the students and the population as much as we can. Of course, getting qualified teachers and professionals into these positions is difficult, and I think school districts across Iowa face this same issue. So to come together and try and solve this problem as a group seems to be a great move, and share resources and work with those providers. So compliments to everybody who's worked to pull this together.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions? Chad, thank you very much. That was a great explanation. It's great work that we're doing, and we look forward to the results of that work over time.
Thank you very much,
We're happy that
President.
you included us in that project.
Thank you.
All those in favor of approving this MOU with the Creative Corridor Center for Equity, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Dr. Benson, this is back to you for scheduling of a public hearing for sale of district property.
Right. We need to schedule a public hearing using the abundance of caution standard regarding the sale of property at 3200 Pioneer Avenue Southeast. This is a school that we have that is our last property for sale due to either flood or rebounding. And when I say an abundance of caution standard, we have tweaked the agreement. It is essentially the same agreement that you have already approved, but there are some minor differences going forward that both sides have negotiated. So using that abundance of caution standard, we would like to schedule a public hearing on this and then approval of the new contract at the next board meeting.
Questions or comments? So it's recommended the Board of Education approve this resolution and setting that public hearing for September 22nd of 2014. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Same sign. Okay, so next I'll turn over to Laurel Day, talk about policy.
Thank you. For your
Manual.
information this evening, we're bringing the 100 series, which deals with the district legal status, includes the mission statement, strategic planning, and belief statements. Members of Policy Review Committee are here this evening to address any questions that you might have.
Questions or comments? None? You guys did a really good job this time around. That's all I can say.
Thank you to Iowa Association of School Boards, as they provide a lot of really valuable resources to us.
You're right, they do. Okay, next I'm going to invite Carla Reese to talk about the ACT high school profile.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to share with you tonight our 2013-2014 ACT report. And go ahead, Mark. The next, what I'd like to start with is our college readiness benchmark scores. These are set by ACT, and these are the minimum scores a student needs. If they get this score, there's a 50% chance of them obtaining a B in equivalent college coursework. And those are 18 in English, 22 in math and reading, and 23 in science. So this is kind of the benchmark we compare our scores to as well, making sure these are minimums for our students. So go ahead. Our scores here are in the center column. You see the test area on the left, the benchmark score, and then the district average. And then on the far right is the state average. So if you compare our scores to the benchmark score as well as the state average, you see we're well above both of those areas in all of the tests, as well as the composite score. So at least a couple of points above. And then, so these are current, our 2013-14 students who took the test. And so as we look at the percentage of those students, which is on the next slide, and the percentage of the students meeting the requirements are in Cedar Rapids are in orange, In red, what you see is the state, and then in tan is the nation. So if you want to hit one more time. And what you see there, the difference that is, that has just shown on the screen there. So for example, in math or in college algebra, our students, 70% of our students met that benchmark score in comparison to 48 in the state. So that's 22 percentage points above the state. So we are well above in all of those areas. And the last one there is students who met all 4 of those benchmark areas. So looking at trends over time is another piece that we tend to do. So these are our English trends over time. The benchmark is 18. And what you can see there is a 5-year trend of how we compare to the state. And we're typically about 10 percentage points above the state and have kept that trend over time. And we have math in the next slide. You can see our scores in comparison with the state in the area of math. About 50% at the state level of students who take the ACT meet that math benchmark of 22. In our district, we were at about 70% of those students. And in reading, one thing I'd like to point out in the reading, the benchmark for reading is 22. In 2012, where you see 72% of our students meeting that benchmark, the benchmark was 21. And so then in 2013, that benchmark increased to 22. So we did drop just slightly there when that benchmark, well, I don't know if a drop is right, but when that benchmark changed, our percentages changed a little bit as well. And then the next one is in science. And that benchmark also changed in 2013, going from 24, to 23. The next slide is our students, our percentage of students who meet all 4 of those benchmark areas. So about 50% of our students, they scored 18 or higher in English, 22 or higher in both math and reading, and then 23 or higher in science. So about half of our students are meeting all 4 of those benchmarks. So in comparison with the state at about 31%. And then the last slide here is just a little bit of other information about our students who take this test. I thought that was relevant. We look at that trend data, but we had 615 students take the ACT test in the district this past school year. Of those students who took the test, 90% of those students reported taking what is called core or more. So that's 4 years or more of English and 3 years of math, social studies, and science. So about 90% of our students who take that exam reported that. Typically, juniors take the ACT, but there's a lot of younger students who also take the ACT. Just as a first practice, a lot of sophomores, some freshmen even take the ACT as well, so they may not have met that core. And then of those students, the students who are taking 3 or more years of math beyond Algebra 1, when they're doing that, they're hitting that math benchmark at approximately 79–80% of those students are meeting that math benchmark of 22. So I thought that was good information that you might like to have. I did not disaggregate the data that you see here by subgroup. Not all of our students take the exam, so I thought we could I can get that for you if you would like that, but bring that to you also in other forms, disaggregated when it's an exam that most of our students take, or almost all. Questions?
Yes, Keith.
I'd like to see the data broken down by income levels, ethnic groups, and if at all possible, students that have been in the district their entire time period versus students have come into the district, let's say, last 4 years or something like that. And I don't know if that allows.
I don't know if I can
even
get that
possible.
the ACT report did not have that last piece, but I can certainly get it for you by subgroups.
Okay, Nancy.
You have 615 students took the ACT. How
Yep.
many
Um,
more could have?
We have about 1,000 juniors.
1,000?
Yes, so about 1,000 11th graders, and if you make the assumption that typically that test is taken out of 11th grade, so about 60% or so.
So are underrepresented students taking the ACT?
They are, yes, but their percentages differ. I mean, and I can present that data, the percentage of what subgroups take the ACT as well.
I'd like that.
Okay?
Hey, John?
The 615 students, it's not just juniors. It could be
No. It could be freshmen, sophomores,
the
juniors,
trend is
seniors.
to take the test
Yes.
multiple times, and we're seeing
is.
students as early as freshman year
Absolutely.
taking it. And so we really can't make a lot of inference from this.
No.
Unless we see single students in one point in time, so.
Correct, and their grade level is not identified in the report, so I could not
Okay.
tell you how many freshmen.
This is really good data
It is
for
good
those
data.
students who have taken the test. Unfortunately, and we've talked about this before, the state test is not ACT. I talked to ACT staff just last week, and they said that 7 other states around Iowa have now gone to the ACT as the state exam, which continues to beg the question that we don't have a statewide test that appears to be giving us the data that we need as school districts to make adequate decisions for if we're making academic progress or not. We can use this as one
It's an
small
indicator.
benchmark, but it's for a very small group of students. We have over half of our students, well over half of our students, it appears to me, that aren't taking the ACT. And I have no idea whether that's because they think they're going to a community college, they don't need it, they're going to a technical school, they're going into the military.
They may take the SAT.
And are we as a district encouraging them, other school districts like Des Moines are mandating and helping pay for all students to take the ACT to make sure that they see the opportunities before them? So it's something that I would like to pursue eventually as a school board is, do we have a way to help students do that so that we can get stronger data if the state of Iowa isn't going to go, and I don't know, we eventually will figure out if they're going with another test,
Yeah,
but
we don't know yet.
but we can't make decisions based on what we're getting right now, I don't think.
Good point. Alan?
I like this test because the students who take it are serious. And I've talked to a lot of students who take the state test and they don't treat it seriously because they don't feel like there's any repercussions of what comes out of that. And so that's the part that really bothers me when I learned that. I didn't know that students didn't take the state test seriously. So it begs the question of the Compass test, which we talked about before. It's been offered as a free test by Kirkwood. Are we still pursuing that as an alternative? Because John and I are on the same page. If we could just get a test that people are serious about taking, and it's something that is real to them, we could really get some data, and if we structured it properly, we could answer some of these questions that Keith brought up right away at the get-go, and maybe be a model for the state. But I know we've talked about that before legislatively, about how to move that along.
We, as you know, ACT, we used to give in the past the plan test to all of our sophomores. And ACT no longer offers that. So as we looked at what do we want to do in place of that, we settled upon offering to all sophomores their choice of taking the PSAT or the Compass test. So all of our sophomores this year will take one of those 2 tests. We're currently, so the PSAT is administered here in mid-October, and then we are going to work with Kirkwood to administer the Compass, and we're actually working with them, and we'll bring information back to you on that. But to help get a diagnostic component to that
Yes.
Compass piece, so that if a student, for example, takes that as a sophomore, and they can use that then for planning at their junior and senior year, so that they are well prepared to enter either that community college. They would need to retake the Compass to enter Kirkwood as a senior, but they would be much better prepared for that.
Yeah, I think we've heard this discussion through my tenure, and we're trying to overcome this issue around getting a bigger bite of the apple so that we have all students and we have a measure all students can take. It's consistent, it's reliable, it's valid, and hopefully they will care about it because we think that it will have individual personal meaning for all students.
Good. Thank you.
Gary?
Well, again, I think the discussion muddles what we're really, we're looking at, are we doing a good job with educating our students? The ACT is used as a measurement, it's a test to measure college readiness. I don't believe that it necessarily has an alignment to what we're teaching. I mean, we're trying to teach a much broader scope, not just college ready, but are they work ready? Are they life skilled ready? And so it begs the question, where do we, and I think that's what the state is working on, an assessment that will be more aligned with what we're actually teaching and help us then measure, our success or lack of success with students. So again, it's to me, the results show that we're doing a good job with those students that look like or are indicating that they're going to go to college. But again, we need to look at a broader scope if we're going to look for a measurement of how we're actually doing with our day-to-day teaching.
Good point. Keith?
I believe we have a sponsor for the ACT as well, don't we?
No, I think we have a sponsor for the AP exam.
Sorry,
No, that's,
on the AP exams.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
sponsors there.
Yep.
That's right.
So,
Are we looking for a sponsor for the, of course we are. We're always looking for sponsors.
Well, there are waivers, though. I mean, Paul, you probably know, or some of you, there are waivers for students that meet low-income guidelines, so.
We will see to it that every student who wants to take the ACT has the opportunity.
Okay, good. Other questions or comments?
I agree with Gary, what he said wholeheartedly.
Good point, Gary. Okay, that concludes our business for tonight. It's 2 weeks into the school year, and you all look like you survived. It's always hectic. Students are moving in and out of different schools, and so we're very anxious to get enrollment numbers and class size numbers for all of our schools. So we're excited about that. Want to remind everyone to vote tomorrow for the physical plant and equipment levy, and we thank you for your support, and we stand adjourned.